What's up, Totem Pole? This is Lambo and Matt's World of Sports. That's Lambo. I'm MattPatt. Today we're getting into the NCAA Week 9 reactions to all the games and the upsets, a little bit more light on the Michigan scandal allegations, and then also getting into what is going on with the Clemson football program. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Well, it is Monday. It's great. Not only that, the downfall of Clemson football, but how in the world did UNC lose to Georgia Tech for 2 years straight? Now, I know a couple weeks back we was going into our predictions and seeing if UNC was going to, make, the college football playoff. And I said maybe Georgia Tech is a game they might lose, and I was oddly right. I don't know how I was oddly right. But before we get into that, I want to get to the exciting things first, all right? You see my sweatshirt? You see what Virginia Tech did on Thursday night? Did you see what you did? You see what Kyron Jones did? You see the Virginia Tech defense? They lead the nation in sacks. 30 sacks, 8 sacks against Syracuse. The Thursday night game on Halloween, it was great. It wasn't that bad of weather. I mean, the weather was great. It was nice. It was perfect. All right, 318 rushing yards on the ground, which is phenomenal. And Brent Pry in that locker room speech, they gave up 0 yards on the ground. So Virginia Tech is looking good. They're 3-1 in the ACC, despite going 1-3 to start the season. The locker room is back. Kyron Jones is the guy going forward. Syracuse and Dino Babers, the head coach, he got to go. Because every time they start off 4-0, 6-0, they're falling off a cliff. But I am very impressed with what Virginia Tech has done. Tyler Bowen has really tried. He's proved me wrong for 3 weeks, but I don't want to jinx it just yet because I want to see how Tech does against a Louisville team that is still strong in the ACC. Can you still grow that mustache going forward?
I hope so, dude. Professor today gave me a compliment, so my confidence is up a little bit. So Virginia Tech, we're tied for 5th in the country in sacks. We're 1st in the ACC with 30. And this overall defense right now is top 15 for the first time since 2017. So, the defense is clicking on all cylinders. Antoine Power-Ryland, I think he got 2 more sacks this game. He was already pretty up there in the ACC and in the country with 7 before. So now that he's got 9, it'll be interesting to see where he is. I mean, Bowen just called a masterful game. He's 5th in the country right now with 9 sacks. Yeah, Bowen was phenomenal. Excuse me. He tried it the one time on the running back pass, and he held on to it. He didn't throw it, got tackled, and then same drive, a couple plays later, tried on the opposite side of the field and get a touchdown out of it. Running game is perfect. Obviously not perfect, but it's just getting so damn good week in, week out. Kyron is looking like a better and better quarterback every week. I swear every week I see him on a new PFF highest graded graphic. It's every week at this point. He's just getting better with every start. And so is this team as a whole. I feel like every single week they are getting better, playing better, and you just love to see it. I mean, 8 sacks in Blacksburg. It's just getting back to what it used to be back in the day. It was Saxburg. This was DBU, and we still have a top 10 pass defense in the country. So I'm elated. I'm over the moon. Now, obviously, big game next week, and we'll get into that later this week, but I'm ready to ride this momentum, dude. I don't want to shave this thing, or I don't want to have to keep shaving everything else. I want to keep this stash for as long as the Hokies win football games.
Well, not only that, before we get into that, we have to talk about the downfall of Clemson. I really want to get to the downfall of Clemson stuff. Now, Clemson has lost back-to-back games for the first time since 2011. And I know what Dabo said at the press conference, we may have to lose some games to get off the bandwagon. I do agree with that because a lot of bandwagon Clemson fans, a lot of spoiled ones. Because what you gonna do when they're not consistent? Now you said it before me, and I've said it as well. About a month or 2 months ago, Dabo needs to be aggressive in the transfer portal. Look what primetime is doing. Now I understand. We'll talk about the primetime stuff later, but Deion Sanders revamped the new roster and got into the transfer portal. I'm not saying they're the two same head coach as far as categories because obviously Deion hasn't been in college football or D1 long enough to be on Dabo's level. But as you can see, Clemson is not. They're just not it. And all you spoiled Clemson fans. Now I know I have some gear and whatnot, not so much rooted for them last year and whatnot. I get it. Y'all spoiled and y'all are bandwagons because y'all pushed DJ Uiagalelei out the door and y'all got worse. Y'all got worse. I mean, he wasn't even that bad of a quarterback. He didn't have receivers. Now, they don't have receivers this year either. Your only main guy is Will Shipley, Phil Maffa. K. Klubnik is still working his way into the system. Dabo needs to make some changes. Now, I don't know if the changes are some of it maybe on the staff. I wouldn't fire Garrett Riley. This is a whole new system to try to learn, so it'd be hard to fire somebody 8 games into the year. But Clemson just finds ways to lose games towards the end. NC State came out with a win. I have a feeling Clemson might have a losing record this year, or they might go 6-6 because next week they play Notre Dame. Even though they're at home, they're gonna get their ass up by Notre Dame. I think they're gonna whoop their ass at home. They did it last year. I know Notre Dame was at home, but with this Clemson team, we said it. Dabo needs to hit into the transfer portal. They need to get more players. They need to pay the players. The dynasty of Clemson is, I wouldn't say it's over because, I mean, I wouldn't say it's over just yet. But it doesn't look good when you're 4-4. And I wouldn't say not yet. I'll give it one more year. If they're like this next year, then I'll say it's over. But Clemson, you Clemson sport fans, I don't know if y'all will be Clemson fans next year, but I wouldn't say the Dabo era, and I think he's a great coach, but he needs to make some adjustments. What the hell is going on with Clemson? I thought Clemson was the top dog in the ACC, and I think I did say it on a text message, or I might have said it just to talk my ass off. If Virginia Tech played Clemson today, we'll easily beat them. It wouldn't be close.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to put that in the air, but I don't think you're too far off. I mean, losing to NC State with a backup QB, and all credit to NC State, but damn, you only put up 17 points on what at the time was like a bottom to mid-tier ACC team, which is now standing-wise where Clemson is. I think they're 10th in the ACC or something when it comes to record. Obviously losing 2 in a row, Miami and NC State. And before that, they barely squeaked by Wake Forest. They beat Wake Forest by 5. 5 points to legitimately, I think, the worst team in the ACC. Like, it's ranking-wise, it's Pitt, Wake Forest, Syracuse. And they literally squeaked by Wake Forest with 5-point dub. So that's very worrisome. And it's weird because the recruiting classes have been fine. They were 10th last year, 11th the year before that. They're like 13th or 14th right now. And we've already done a video on their recruiting class, I believe. So if you want to check that out, you can go back in the Totem Pole archive, find that, get updated. Anyway, the transfer class has not been good at all. They had 1 transfer last year. They were the worst transfer class in the ACC and one of the worst in the country. And the only reason they weren't one of the worst in the country was because the guy that they did get in the transfer portal wasn't like an absolute scrub, but still 1 dude. So in today's college football, that's not how you're going to win. It's not how you're going to evolve and stay competitive. And that's why I think that it's over. Dabo doesn't really seem like he's in agreement with making the change to, emphasizing transfer portal stuff. Earlier this year, they asked him about NIL. He said, we're built in NIL of God, in the name of God. Well, like, cool, bro. You're not going to win football games with God at linebacker, all right? Like, you need some dudes through the transfer portal. That's just how it is. Unless you get all 12 disciples out there to play the starting defense and then have one as a rotational guy or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you have this mindset knowing that your team is failing, knowing that it's just not as, I don't want to say failing because they have the same record as us, but like in terms of Clemson football, they're obviously doing way worse than they thought and way worse than I think everybody thought. And then to say that this year just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make me want to, if I were a recruit and the coach came out and said something like that in today's college football realm, I'll be like, all right, this dude wants me to go to church instead of giving me money like any other team in the country will. Like, dudes that Clemson would be recruiting are going to get offers from damn near every other school, right? So why not be competitive in one of the main driving points of getting recruits today? And that would be NIL. And then another big part of building the team would be capitalizing on the transfer portal. And he's been very vocal about not liking either one of those. And that's how you get good in today's college football. So I think it's up to Dabo. I don't know what coaching moves would really matter if your head coach isn't evolving to today's time.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit old school, and like I said, they're gonna keep losing. I wouldn't be surprised if they barely make it to a bowl game, or if they have a losing record after Notre Dame, because it's not gonna be easy. And I'm not, as a second favorite team in Notre Dame, I'm not gonna say, oh, it's gonna be a cakewalk. I might have accidentally said that, but I'm just disappointed in Clemson. I didn't expect them. They got the same record as Virginia Tech. and ladies and gentlemen,
and they're below us in ACC standings because they can't win a damn game in the conference. I think they're 1-4 in conference.
They're 2-4 in conference play.
2-4.
2-4, and their losses was to Florida State, NC State, Duke, and Miami. They only beat Wake Forest and I don't know. I forgot who else they beat, but yeah, they Clemson is so damn bad. I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, if you really bet on the teams, like as far as like the over, how many wins they're gonna get, they put Virginia Tech at like under 3.5 or 4. They about over, what they said. Now they might have put Clemson about 10 wins. They at 4. They're at 4 in week 10. 4 wins in week 10. Yeah. All right. Y'all are so smart. Keep disrespecting Virginia Tech because Virginia Tech is coming. We have our quarterback. Y'all got Clay Klubnik, and I get it. I'm not shitting on him as a human being, but he is not that consistent.
Give me Kyron Drones. Give me Kyron.
Yes, I take Kyron Jones over Cade
every
Klubnik.
day, son. Every day.
I'm sorry. I'm taking Kyron Jones over Cade Klubnik because
the duality. The duality
DJ
of what he can do
was not the problem at Clemson. It
Correct.
was Dabo.
Yeah.
Look what he's doing at Oregon State. They lost 2 games so far. Oregon State. Nobody's talking about what DJ is doing at Oregon State. But DJ was the problem. Oh, DJ is inaccurate. Oh, DJ was this. See, what Clemson fans like to do is you like to point out the bad. But even though Clemson hasn't made the national championship or the college football playoff, you should forget that DJ Ulick first season, y'all went 10-3. Is 10-3 not good enough? 10-3 in a bowl game? Is that not good enough? I mean, 10-3 is not good enough. And then last year, y'all went 11-3 and got spanked by a Tennessee team who was barely mediocre or somewhat good. Joe Milton is not even that great. I mean, what do y'all want? To be Alabama? Y'all want to be, we got to win a national championship every year? No. I told you. I said this weeks ago. You even talked about it as well, that you got to have that go-to guy. Clemson don't have no go-to wide receivers. They only have a running back. Will Shipley's their only guy on the team. They
have 2 running backs.
Well, you have to say Will Shipley and Phil Boffin. That's the only 2 running backs they have. They have no to-go receivers and no to-go tight end. That's why you will not win in college football when you don't have a to-go receiver. You don't have a Barbara Harrison Jr. You don't have a Mike Williams or DeAndre Hopkins or Hunter Renfro or somebody that you have in the past. You don't damn have that because you don't believe in the transfer portal. Get to the transfer portal. I don't care how good your class is. Get to the transfer portal. It's easy. It's just like free agency of college football. You didn't have that 10 years ago. You normally, when somebody had to transfer, they had to sit out a year or 2 years, depending on credits, whatever the hell stuff goes on. But Dabo, you got it tightened up. Now, I got to get to the Michigan stuff. Now, there's a possibility that Jim Harbaugh could be his last year at Michigan. Now, it doesn't really affect me. I like Jim Harbaugh. I'm not a Jim Harbaugh hater. But I look at it as it might be his last year because what more can he do in Michigan? I mean, what more can he do? He may want to win a national championship before he goes back to the NFL because he does have some unfinished business, especially, I think the 49ers would still be a great team if he was still the head coach of the 49ers because look what he did with Colin Kaepernick. I bet you Colin Kaepernick would still be the NFL right now if Jim Harbaugh was the head coach of the 49ers. I bet you he'll still be the NFL right now. Or it's arguable. I don't want to predict and say, right now.
Like even before all that stuff, like he was playing pretty bad. So
I get he was playing pretty bad. 8 year in 2014 before obviously he got let go or fired. But for Jim Harbaugh, Michigan and all this stuff, and of course their staffer is suspended with pay as of right now. What are your thoughts on this? And if Jim Harbaugh were to get an NFL job, I think his options would be the Chargers. If you get rid of Brandon Staley, you got a Justin Herbert quarterback. They're a win-now team. They have all the talent. You just got to fix the defense. I give you the Raiders. Get rid of Josh McDaniels. They have Devontae Adams. They have Josh Jacobs. They got a quarterback that can win you games. I'm not saying he's all that. I will give you Minnesota. No, not Minnesota. No. Damn. Chargers. I'm thinking Chargers and Raiders. What other teams you have in mind, and what do you think of this?
Well, definitely those two. I'm not sure if there's any other teams that are maybe Todd Bowles down there, but I don't think so. They're like in a really weird area. They're not going to be very good next year, I don't think. Like assuming Mike Evans.
Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles are like this. Bruce Arians went upstairs, and then Todd Bowles they're like this.
I mean, I get it. I get it. I don't know if there's really too many teams that are jumping to fire a head coach this year. Maybe the Giants situation.
Maybe the Commanders.
Well, maybe. Yeah. So the Commanders too. That's a good call. Like the Commanders are in there as well. And I can maybe see the Giants, but it's pretty early in his career or in his tenure, I think, to fire him. But they're playing like shit right now. So that's a conversation for another video. But they're playing awful. So I could see that. But I wouldn't be like locked in on him getting fired. So I'd say probably those three teams. This is weird to me because he still has 3 years on his deal. They were supposed to have an extension. The extension was obviously put on hold. And then Wall Street Journal reported that Michigan had rescinded the offer, as in taking it back. And then today, Harbaugh was asked about it, and he said that wasn't accurate. So I don't think anybody is sure what's going on inside that building. Besides those guys in particular. I mean, if Wall Street Journal, they obviously had a pretty credible source to go out and publish an article saying
they had somebody in there. They
had somebody tell them something. So for Harbaugh to then publicly say that is not true, there's some shit going on internally there for sure. So this is not just an NCAA coming after Michigan situation. This seems to be there's some turmoil within the organization as well, which we thought that there kind of was already between Jim and the AD. I'm pretty sure they've had some awkward moments publicly with like statements said about each other. It's weird. So a current D3 coach is one of the sources that said the staffer who is currently suspended paid him to film future opponents' signals. So there is a Division III coach who has come out and said that. I don't know if there's like receipts or anything, Venmo transactions. I know there was a Venmo transaction put out there with this guy with the only abbreviation was UGA or something like that, or GA, which was like, all right, so it looks like they're scouting Florida before the college football playoff. I mean, Georgia, excuse me. So that was from last year. So like there's stuff piling up evidence wise. But for the amount of yes and then no, and then like just stuff that's out there that we don't know if it's true or not, like I really don't know what's going on here. They haven't said anything about the laptop yet, but we know that they took the laptop, 2 weeks ago when this started. I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch, I think. It's going to be crazy. And with him having 3 years left on the contract, like, is this enough to fire him? Would they fire him after this year? If they go on to almost like, if they say they make it to the national championship, do you fire him?
If you win it, it blows problems away. If you win it, now if you lose it, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, right.
Winning solves everything. Winning is a distraction. So you can win, and what they're doing right now is winning, but now stuff is coming out.
Well, if you think about the Pete Carroll situation, he left in 2009 to go from USC to the Seahawks. They had won a championship, 2-3 years before that, around that span.
Yeah,
so he had already won one. And the implications of the cheating scandal that had been going on for a couple years at USC that was being publicly investigated at USC, similar to this situation. It took a couple years for them to enact any punishment, but it was a bowl ban. They didn't take away the championship, but they took away Reggie's Heisman. That was a whole thing as well at USC. So, and then Pete left, went to Seattle, and he didn't really have to deal with the aftermath. It could be a similar situation here, given the amount of years remaining on his contract. And if they stay relevant, as in a top 3 team in the country, which it looks like they will with their recruiting class and how they were doing this year, last year, like it just looks like they're set up for future success. And it also looks like Jim could be gone before any punishments get handed out.
I do agree with that. I think his allegations are I don't want to say somebody setting him up, but as far as me being a coach and with the film stuff, even Primetime came out in the press conference and said you could steal their signs and do all this other stuff, but you still got to sit there and stop it. So like you could have all the answers to the test and you still have to stop it. Like
I think the only reason this is a big deal, and you've heard most coaches come out with a similar feeling.
Matt Rule didn't have a problem with it. He was like, they steal stuff all the time.
The issue is that it is an explicit rule that you can't go to opposing games and film the signals. You can't do it. You can send guys to games, you just can't film it. Like have them write it, or it might just be advanced scouting as a whole is not allowed. Either way, there are ways, there's loopholes, I'm sure, to get around it. And I'm sure damn near every coach.
There's also loopholes. I'm not comparing the sport or the level, but there's also loopholes in high school. They do this shit too.
Well, right. But the thing is, if you are not taking the loopholes and you are just directly violating the written rule, you're not trying to weasel around it. You're not trying to find a way to make it okay. You're just literally saying, fuck it. I'm going to do what this rule says not to do blatantly. So I think that's what the issue is. All the coaches have seemed to not really had an issue with the action, but I think the only reason this is so big is because there's literally a written rule. Don't go do this. And that's what they did. They didn't try to make a loophole or anything. They just said, fuck it, and did it, and I think that's why it's such a big deal. Not the action of going to steal signs. Every coach has said, yeah, we steal signs every week. That's part of the game. That's part of the strategy. It's not that. It's just the disregard for the rules.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. I mean, I gotta get more information on this one because I like to see the outcome of this. Like I said, if Jim Harbaugh wins the national championship and they somehow beat Georgia, I wouldn't say this all blows away, but it'll quiet down because once you win a national championship, everybody's going to talk about that. Now, if they lose, then it could be, I don't know. But I mean, it's long. It's long. But let's get into these games. Now, we got to get to your second favorite team. How in the hell you let Georgia Tech score 22 points in the fourth quarter and then scored 0 in the third quarter and then they scored 24 in the second quarter? I mean, my God, UNC. Drake May didn't play bad, but Georgia Tech really ran that ball on that defense. I was hyping up the UNC defense earlier. I said, "Is UNC defense getting a little bit better?" But here's that final stretch. Y'all did this last year. That y'all went undefeated and y'all went to that 4-game losing streak. When you lost the Clemson AC championship game and the other games, and y'all, man, what's wrong with your team? I think y'all about to hit a losing streak again, just like last year.
It's not a my team anymore. I do support them, but
it's
I'm
your
definitely
second favorite team. Let's just put it. And you're passionate for Drake May. You're a Drake May guy.
Yeah, I'm a Drake May guy, but I wouldn't. I'm definitely a 100% Hokie. Like I'm not. I root for their success. I want them to be good. Yes, but
yeah, well, that's why I put it like that because you have some
thoughts.
But
it's not a y'all thing when it comes to me in UNC football. Like which is fine, but yeah, I don't know. I was disappointed. The offense played fine. Like you said it, the offense played fine. The run, Amari and Hampton, dog. Drake May played, I thought, very well. He had 8 incompletions all game, something like that.
Tez Walker got hurt too. I think he got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt. He also had the only turnover and a fumble, and that was going to be one of my points as well. They weren't in a turnover hole. Like they obviously turned the ball over once, but they also got an interception. And they won time of possession as well. So, excuse me. It's just another UNC team that's disappointing their fans late in the season. I feel like this happens pretty regularly with this football team since they've been good for the past, 5 years-ish, maybe 6. They look great in the beginning of the year, and then something happens. And I'm not going to put it all on Mac, but there's a lot of shit being talked to Mac Brown right now. This is just how a Mac Brown coach team does it. It's not even exclusively a UNC thing. He was doing this in Texas as well. Obviously he had some great seasons in Texas, but that Texas theme of Texas is almost back. And then, no, they're not. He's kind of bringing that. Yep. He's brought that to UNC, that didn't just start at Texas for no reason. After they were really good, Mac was a really good head coach there. Then they just started to do what Texas has been doing. And it's continued since Mac left. So it's not all on him, but he's been doing it at UNC as well. So this is kind of just like a trend for Mac Brown at this point. You win time of possession. You weren't in a turnover hole and your offense played well. You shouldn't be losing to a lesser opponent. And that defense just got dog walked. They got embarrassed. They got taken to school. They got whatever other expression you want to use to say that this defense got punked out there. You can use it because it was ugly.
All right. What about this game? Georgia versus Florida. Now, obviously, I lost money because Georgia did not cover my minus spread because they only won by 20. I had to be minus 23 or 25. But they wanted to give up a touchdown with 1 minute left in the game. So that pissed me off. Ladies and gentlemen, I have told you, Georgia without Brock Bowers and whatnot, they're still the best team in football. But also, I told you that Florida is not bad. I don't know what in the world you thought Florida was bad and it would be Georgia. The halftime score, ladies and gentlemen, I think was 26-7. My God, that Georgia defense is something different. And what kind of play call was that? The quarterback went under center. You hiked it through his legs to the running back for a pass. That's a god-awful play call against a Kirby Smart defense. That is just god-awful. Were you supposed to trick him with the play or something? Because the play didn't go nowhere. So I don't know what Billy Napier and all that's doing. I keep telling you, just because you're 5-2 don't mean you're good. Oh, we're 5-2. Look at us. You forgot that you still ain't play LSU yet. You lucky you don't play Alabama. And I told you when you play a tough Georgia team like this, the score wasn't even close. This game was ass whooping from start to finish. Georgia and Carson Beck, they're on a roll. They can still run the ball. They have McCarney in a replacement of Brock Bowers. Still had 135 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. That Florida defense is awful. I don't know what to tell you. Graham Mertz is not a bad quarterback. I think he's doing well for what he can around him right now. But Florida's not bad. Let's just stop the Florida back nonsense. Let's just stop it. I mean, let's just stop it. It's over. You hadn't been good since Tim Tebow. You don't have a Tim Tebow no more. You have a mediocre head coach in Billy Napier, who I don't believe in his vision at all. He'll probably get fired in the next 2 years. So that's it. Georgia's the best team in football.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Graham, I thought played all right. He didn't – I mean, his percentage was good, but you look at how some of those passes were getting. I mean, it was barely any air yards on most of them. So – and you do that. You got to play that's not his fault. You have to play the defense that you're playing against. So obviously you can't take huge chunks off of this Georgia defense. That's a known thing. So I'm not like shitting on him because of that. I just honest evaluation, like he played okay. Good percentage. He didn't turn the ball over, but he didn't like blow me away. And it was unfortunate that they kind of were forced out of being run first, because I feel like that's when, if they're run first, this offense will click the best, and they just didn't get enough offense going.
Got nothing going after the first quarter.
Exactly. Nothing. They didn't have anything going to where they could keep like giving the ball to the running backs, because I mean both running backs played great in Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne. Johnson had 9.1 yards a carry. Breakaway of 48 yards on one of them, and he had 82 total. And then Etienne only had 42, but he had 7 carries, and he was averaging 6 a carry. So it just, I get it. Once you're down, obviously 26-7 at halftime, you can't go into the second half with a run first mindset. I understand that part of football. I'm just saying that this offense clicks when the running game is leading the way, with these two studs in the backfield, and the fact that they couldn't get them involved nearly enough speaks to why they lost so bad. And then to even like not get them involved in the passing game at all. Trevor Etienne, 1 reception, Montrell, 2 receptions. It just doesn't make much sense to me. These are 2 of your best athletes. I feel like you want to get them the ball. If you can't run it, why not get it to them in the passing game? Eugene Wilson, the third, I haven't really seen him too much this year for Florida. 11 catches for 75 yards kind of speaks to what my point was with, Mertz's game. It's just, he had a good completion, but it wasn't a lot of air yards. And you can tell that by 11 receptions for 75 yards. It wasn't traveling that much, which is fine. If you got the dink and dunk to compete, that's what you have to do. But the issue is they didn't compete. They couldn't find anything to get going, and then obviously the defense wasn't a match at all for the offensive attack of Georgia.
Yeah, and like I said, Florida's remaining schedule. You have Arkansas, which you probably will beat them because they just fired the offensive coordinator 2 weeks ago. You ain't beating LSU. You at LSU, so you ain't gonna beat them in Baton Rouge. That's just not gonna happen at all. You at Missouri. Missouri is, ladies and gentlemen, Missouri is 7-1. The last time I checked, Missouri is 7-1. So they're a good, legit team. They have a great quarterback. And Florida State, who is 8-0 for the first time, I think since 2015 in the Jimbo Fisher era. That was like 8 years ago. But it looks like you may be dropping 3 of your last 3. You may win 3 of your last. Excuse me, you may lose 3 of your last 4 games. So, all you Florida fans, you're all right offensively, but your defense it's not the answer. I understand Georgia's powerful, but I hadn't been sold on your defense all year. I mean, you don't really have a good defense. I don't know what to tell you. And when coaches don't have a good defense, you normally get fired. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about the upset. We were both wrong on this. Oklahoma and Kansas. Now, I think it was a weather delay or some kind because the game ran way longer It took over some TV time and ran way longer. I watched the end of the game. Kansas with Jason Bean. Jason Bean went off. Oh my God, man. Well, I used Prize Picks. Dylan Gabriel let me down because he could barely get over 100 yards passing or 150 yards passing. I don't know. I put him over 260. He barely got, 160 or whatever it was. Oklahoma ran the ball pretty well, but their defense really got exposed in the end. Now, I thought Kansas was going to lose this game because we seen Oklahoma get pinned deep and score a touchdown like they did against Texas. I think the smart way to do it is, Kansas was in the end zone or the red zone, and Oklahoma let them score, obviously. I think the smarter way to do it is since Kansas had the timeouts and Oklahoma, I think, only had like 2-1 timeouts left. Smarter thing to do it kind of just like run it and stop short at the goal line. Then you kind of take a knee, and then you burn out the clock and kick a field goal. Obviously, it didn't go against them. That's kind of just my strategy because we've seen that before. It's some college, some NFL games. I thought that would be the strategy, but, hey, Kansas won. I'm sorry if I thought that prediction was great, but it wasn't. Oklahoma defense did get exposed. Like I said, or like you said earlier, Brett Venables a great coach, but that defense is still in a learning system. I'm not surprised that Kansas beat Oklahoma. It's the first time, I think, since like 1997 or way longer than that they beat Oklahoma. I'm not surprised. But the passing game of Oklahoma really disappointed me. And Kansas beating you with a backup quarterback not named Jalen Daniels raises some concerns for me. What are your thoughts on this game? And Oklahoma did drop like 4 spots after the loss.
Yeah. Oklahoma lost this game. And all credit to Kansas, but I'm not saying that Kansas won it. Their offense, while Devin Neal did run the ball well, Jason Bean threw like 51%, barely over 200 and 2 picks. They also lost a fumble.
Yes.
There's no reason that with that inefficient of an offense that you're playing against, that they go out and score 38 points on you. On a defense who I said when I ranked my college teams last week, this is not a Lincoln Riley defense. This is a defense that has shown up this year. They now, obviously, yeah, they're still learning. They have been playing great this year. And then they go out and give up 38 points to Kansas against
with a backup quarterback.
A backup quarterback who barely threw the ball over 50% and threw 2 picks. Now, I get it. He ran for 62 yards, had a touchdown on the ground. That's awesome. That's awesome. What the hell? What are we doing? Like, it just – and I think I'm more upset with this because we both lost in our prediction stuff. But still, like, what kind of second half do you have when you come out and you score 12 points in the entire second half, when you have one of the best offenses in the country? You have one of the Heisman candidate leaders in the country in Dylan Gabriel, and you can't get anything going outside of the run game. And then even on top of that, lean on the run game a little bit more in the second half. Clearly they did, because Dylan Gabriel only threw the ball 19 times. It just, the defense just makes me so frustrated. It makes me so frustrated because I literally last Monday was just praising them so much. I was like, yeah, this defense, they're finally here. This isn't the Lincoln Riley days. This is finally a defense. And just nothing. They're just bullshit out here. And it's just, yeah, it's frustrating in a prediction standpoint. It's frustrating in a gambling standpoint. But, good for Kansas. I don't really have any ties to this game outside of the money that I put in DraftKings on Saturday. So, yeah, good for Kansas.
Yeah, and the funny thing is when Jason Bean threw an interception, Oklahoma still had a chance to close the game out. They couldn't do it. He threw an interception off a screen pass, and they couldn't finish the game. So that's Oklahoma. That's a shame. Next game, you were definitely right about this. Oregon put the whooping on Utah. Now, I thought Utah was going to do something. Utah disappointed me and scored 6 goddamn points. 6. The same amount of points that Colorado scored. 6 points. Bo Nix, we got to put him in the Heisman conversation. I understand Bo Nix has been around college football forever. He didn't work at Auburn. We're not putting enough respect on Bo Nix's name. We're talking about Shador. We're talking about Penix. We're talking about Caleb Williams, even though he's been garbage the last 3 weeks. We've been talking about Drake May and Sam Hartman, all this other stuff, Travis Hunter. But we got to put some respect on Bo Nix. This Oregon defense is probably the best defense I've ever seen as us watching Oregon. Dan Lanning is bringing that Georgia culture defense to Oregon. And wow, you held a Utah team to 6 points while USC gave up like 35. Wow. Not comparing them, but I'm just saying. I speak facts. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Numbers can't lie. Can Oregon squeeze in the Final Four? There's still a lot of teams. You got Alabama playing against LSU. You still got Texas. You still got Washington that they lost to. You still got a lot of teams up there. Can Oregon get it? But they have to win out. And somebody eventually has to lose. Like Oklahoma did lose. UNC did lose 2 straight. But somebody has to lose. You're right about Oregon. I was wrong. I don't know why I picked Utah.
Well, so I like Utah. I've been pretty vocal about that. Excuse me. But I just been, because I was so vocal in my support of them, I was like, I have to watch each and every one of these games so I don't look like an idiot when I go out here and continue to support them. And what I saw for throughout this year, and this is not a hot take, I think most people would agree, the offense has not gotten to a consistent point with the current quarterback situation. Barnes and Nate Johnson, both in this same category of being decent quarterback. They're good backup guys. It's nice to have them for a couple of games throughout the season if your quarterback sprains his ankle or something. But when it comes to them playing the whole year, my faith in them week to week just got lower and lower and lower. And then when they eventually did lose that game, I took that as a lesson. I said, all right, that's it.
That game against Oregon State. I picked
Oregon State, yes. I picked Utah to win that game, and I didn't. And that was a wake-up call for me. I was like, all right, this defense cannot win them every single game, despite what's going on the offensive side. That's kind of the vibe I was with the first weeks of the season. They lost. I learned my lesson, and I haven't really bet on them since. And when it came to this game, all I was seeing was a defense that cannot be the only reason that they win against top opponents. And Oregon State is very good. Oregon is even better. And I didn't have the faith that the defense would be able to do enough to keep the offense in the game. And that clearly was the outcome. Offense couldn't get anything going. Defense couldn't stop water with a dam. So, yeah, I mean, I hate being right about it because I do enjoy that Utah team. I thought the whole weekend, starting with the Pat McAfee show and then College Game Day, everything like that, like they hyped him up a lot. And I was getting kind of nervous about my prediction a little bit. I was like, man, this is some good vibes around Utah. I don't know. And then
the game was over. The game was over by like the second quarter.
Exactly. Then it came game time, and I was very, very reassured in my prediction. It wasn't close. Pac-12 matchup that you really wanted to be like a preview of the championship for the Pac-12, and it's just not going to be the case.
All right, Florida State versus Wake Forest. The reason why this game is meant to be talked about, even though it was a high-scoring game, is because previously Florida State has lost 3 straight to Wake Forest before they became relevant again. Now, this could have been a trending upset alert. I didn't think it was. They beat them 3 years in a row, but that's very, Florida State went through this up and downs. Now they're up here. Florida State is 8-0 for the first time since 2015. I think it's like a year and a half before Jimbo Fisher left to go to A&M. Florida State, they're undefeated in the ACC. Like I said, if everything goes right with the mustache and you grow it, there's a possibility that Virginia Tech and Florida State could meet for the ACC championship game. And if that happens, I am buying tickets to go over there if that happens in Charlotte, North Carolina. But I'm just going to stay in the boat right now. Florida State is currently the best team in the ACC. They're up there. According to the schedule, I just said they still got to play, Florida and all this other teams. Is Florida State, are they gonna stay in the top 4 spot, or you think they go fold?
I mean, there's nothing that I've seen so far.
There's no weaknesses in Florida State. There's no weaknesses. Except that Boston College game, they almost folded. But you don't see a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, and then just looking at their remaining schedule, I mean, Pitt beat Louisville. All right, so I'm not going to say that Pitt is incapable of competing, but Pitt also got steamrolled by the Virginia Tech Hokies. So I'm just going to put, I don't want the whole Pitt thing to be like you're just overlooking your opponent. But when it comes to their remaining schedule, I don't think Pitt is at the top of the concern list. Finishing the year, I think Miami. No,
Miami.
Florida, they could be. They could be. I think Florida is the biggest thing, and I understand Florida just got they just got smacked. But I will say, a home game at Florida, or it would be an away game for Florida State. It's an SEC crowd. You can't sleep on it. We saw what happened to Tennessee going in there. Obviously, Tennessee is not the team Florida State is. That's not the comparison I'm making. But the comparison I am making is that Tennessee is a better team than Florida, and they went in there and lost. And it has a big, big part with the atmosphere, with it being a home game for Florida in a rivalry matchup that Tennessee and Florida has turned into. Now, you talk about rivalries. This is their biggest rival, the in-state foe, the Florida State. That's the thing, So I think that's the biggest, landmine on the remaining schedule. Because if they drop that, it's going to be like a coin flip of who's going to get in, assuming Michigan and Georgia stay undefeated and Michigan and Ohio State, one of them has to lose. So realistically, the 3 and 4 spot is going to be a 1-win team. And as we just mentioned with the Pac-12 teams, there's multiple schools that have one loss. Yeah, you're right. With one loss. So basically what I'm saying, the 2, 3, and 4 teams are going to be 1-loss teams. No, 1 and 2 are going to be solidified 0 loss. There's going to be 6 teams that are going to have 1 loss that are all going to think that they have just as much of a right to be in that 4 spot as the other 5 teams that they're going up against. So Florida State, it's big that they win out, because if they don't, they're going to be just part of that ensemble of one win or 1-loss teams that could potentially miss out.
All right, final game. I want to make sure this is the final game. Make sure I have all my notes. Yes, final game. Don't know why you picked Colorado. Now, I'm not shaming you for picking them. Here's the point I'm trying to make. You were right about Colorado as far as the win prediction, because they're 4-4. But you did pick them to beat UCLA. Now, we both didn't do our research. I'm going to say this on camera because we didn't know shit about Ethan Garbers. All right. Yep. We thought that Dante Moore was going to be the starter, and that's my fault. I met the text you said, damn, we didn't do it. And I looked on the Joe Clack show, and I was like, Ethan Garbers. I was like, how did I miss this? So our fault for missing information. And I like to, make sure that I'm wrong on here and not just do it outside of camera. I want to do it on here, so we're both wrong. So I picked UCLA, obviously, because the run game and Carson Steele and whatnot, they still ran the ball for a combined 218 yards. Now, you were right as far as the win. There's a possibility that Colorado, respectfully, you gave them 7 wins. They're at 4-4. Colorado started off 3-0, and obviously they're 1-3 since then, since the loss to Stanford and whatnot. But that offensive line is god awful. I mean, my God. I think they have a number one linebacker or that's possibly going to NFL in Mel Kiper's, top pick. I can't remember his name right now, but he's up there. You said he has a very good defense. Now here's my problem with this game. A lot of concerns. Shador's getting hit too much. There's a lot of jealousy that's going on in the Colorado team because, the only attention as far as NIL deals, the big NIL deals, Travis Hunter, Shiloh, Shador. They're the face of Colorado. We're not talking about nobody else. Now, as of the well-off media stuff that I watch on YouTube, it's great. But Primetime said it in the speech while they were at practice. There is some jealousy going on, and not everybody is buying it. Everybody's not buying it. Now, I got to give you some stats when it comes to these quarterback hits because these quarterback hits are insane. Shador Sanders, ladies and gentlemen, was pressured 22 times, hit 17 times, knocked down 13 times, and sacked 6 times. 6 times. Now, we know they got to revamp the whole team and the transfer portal. I get that. Number one, you can't say Coach Prime's a bad coach because that Coach Prime said that's the worst team they're going to beat. Now, he said in the press conference as well that they're going to have to get new offensive linemen. Now, Shador had to get some type of injection before halftime because he was getting slapped around pretty bad. And you said it for weeks. You said if Colorado keep having these slow starts, they're not going to win. Colorado went on to another slow start. Now, they got an interception early in the game. I get that. They can't run the ball. They ran the ball for 25 yards in total. They can't run the ball. UCLA ran the ball better. Ethan Garbers, he had a bad interception, obviously, but he played better than Dante Moore. Shador's fighting for his life. His QBR is 38. But, Travis Hunter can't do everything. They got to get some other guys that can step up. Shiloh Sanders with the ejection, I kind of don't really agree. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that. The NCAA got to stop ejecting people for this stuff. It's football. It's part of contact. There's a lot of jealousy going on in Colorado, which is a fact, whether you like it or not. Colorado at 4-4. They need 2 more games to be bowl eligible. Now, I don't know if they're going to make it, but I got to give credit to UCLA defense. UCLA defense is actually better in Chip Kelly's 6-year tenure than it ever was 5 years ago. So this year, UCLA is actually a very, very good defensive team. What are your thoughts on this? And like I said, Colorado, they still got to play Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, and Utah. And Primetime, like I said, he said get new linemen. You might have a losing record. You might be right. And I will say this on national television, if they have a lose, not just if they have a losing record, even if they have a winning record. I was wrong about Colorado. I'm not a hater. I like Primetime Deion Sanders. But I think I sipped on that purple drink a little bit too much. I smoked that stuff. I don't know what I was doing. Said I was too hyped and said they was going to win 12 games and possibly win a national championship. I was on my ass. I apologize to all the Total Pole fans. I was just on it. I'm not a hater. I just had passion. But you went from 3-0 to 4-4. I have nothing else to say. You were right. So go ahead with your
Colorado and I'm not happy that I'm right. I said it multiple times when I was making these predictions. I was like, look, if I'm wrong about one thing, I want it to be this. I want to be wrong about Colorado. But I just said what I thought was going to happen, and it looks like we're getting towards that happening. I think my original prediction was 6-6 or 7-5 on a good note. So in this case, I think 6-6 is a very good possibility of happening. And I'll have been exactly right in August. So we'll see. I'm not gonna, get too much into being right about this because, like I said, I wanted to be wrong. I wanted this team to be better than they are, and I think that they haven't played. Obviously, the running game sucks. Obviously, the O-line, I don't understand. I get it because he's the head coach, but I didn't understand fully why it was such a big deal that, Prime said what he said about the O-line. I feel like everybody that covers sports in
He
the country
just spoke the truth. That's a fact.
right.
I mean,
I feel like every single person that covers sports or college football has made that evaluation and has said that publicly. If you talk about college football, it's not a hard evaluation to make. The offensive line sucks. What do? You get better O linemen. That's how it works. So the fact that people were all like up in arms about Prime saying that about the O line was a little bit BS to me. I didn't understand it. I feel like it's just another thing people want to get mad at him about. And then when it comes to the jealousy with inside the locker room, you recruited guys there, you recruited dudes there who you knew were dogs or had the want and drive to be a dog. So it's not the hardest thing in the world. And they're all 18 to like 22, 23 years old. They're dudes, right? Like it's going to happen. There's going to be stuff like if everyone there is going there for the same reason, and that's the reason Prime has talked about publicly and in recruiting, like we're building this to be dogs. We want to be the best. So if you're getting everyone in there and there's more light going to someone else about certain things, like, and rightfully so when it comes to Travis Hunter and Shador, like these guys are animals, top of the top when it comes to their position in the country. So I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. But what I am saying is that it's not too far-fetched to think that a bunch of dudes that are freshly not teenagers anymore are getting a little bit butthurt about the way that this season is going and about the attention that some teammates are getting while they're not and stuff. Like, yeah, it's not the culture that you would ideally want, but for a brand new team, for the majority of these guys just meeting this year, and I get it, it's college football, that's how it is every year. But this is entirely a new team made from scratch with dudes from everywhere. There's very little team camaraderie that has been built in any year past at all. They had almost nobody stay. And out of the people that they brought over, I'm sure a few of them were teammates in the past.
They got one guy from last year's roster. One.
Right, exactly. And then when you look at all the other dudes that have come in, there's only a few guys that have ever played with each other at all before. And this was part of my prediction in August as well. It has nothing to do with them as players. I just think building a successful football team and a team in almost any sport for that matter, you need some camaraderie, and you can't just have that happen from August to October, right? That you can't just build a complete program that fast. And so there's some egos that are hurt. Yeah, I'm sure all of these kids on this team were the best athlete in their town until they went to a bigger town, and now they're not the top dog anymore, right? This happens at every school. The issue is Deion, and I don't even want to say issue. The reason that this is getting jumped on is because Deion is Deion, and he said it publicly. That's it. If he didn't say it publicly, it would be the same thought for every school. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's some dudes whose egos are a little hurt. It's football.
It's the same thing at Alabama, just nobody talks about Alabama because they win.
It's the same thing at every single school. There are dudes who think, and this is D1 to D3, right? There are dudes that are not playing as much or not getting the attention they think they deserve, and they're a little butthurt. That every school, every sport from D1 to D3, this is an issue. The fact that this is getting talked about with Colorado is simply because it's Deion and they want something to talk about.
Yeah, unfortunately, everybody wants something to talk about when it comes to prime time. But this is it for college football stuff. Next, we're going to get into all NFL stuff. There's a lot of good things. The Cowboys won. The Chiefs disappointed. Kirk Cousins out for the year with a torn Achilles. What's the future like? That's not good. Yeah, we got to get some NFL stuff. I think NFL's been pretty interesting. Like I said, this is Lambo and Matt's World Sports. Do you like that name? Is it great? Do you like it? Do you wish it was more? I mean, do you like? I just want you to be honest. Do you like it or not?
Yeah, I like it.
Your face is singing like,
I love it. I love it. I'm over the moon.
You over the moon? All right. So 2 months in, he's over the moon, and This is a 50-50 partnership, 2 months in. So there you go. It's not mine no more. It's his. It's all right. 50-50. So next, we got to talk about NFL. We'll catch you back in the next 5 minutes for all NFL stuff. And trade deadline is tomorrow. So what trades could possibly happen in the next 10, 12 so hours? We'll catch you. Lambo and Matt's World Sports, featured Silent Sports Network. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to Total Pro Nation. We'll catch you later in the next 5 minutes for all NFL recaps.